Okay, welcome to another episode of Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to talk college football, and now we're going to talk week 8. That's what we're in now, week 8 of the college football season. We're going to talk my picks, predictions, what I'm going to do this weekend. Coming off a 4-1-1 week last week, so it's a good week. And what's funny is I even called the push last week. I said, Washington, Oregon, I'm laying the 3, but it's probably going to be a push. I wish I did it earlier in the week when I saw it drop to 2.5 and then it went back up to 3. So could have been a 5-1 week, truth be told. But anyways, let's try to keep this hot streak going. And let's get into it. Let's talk what we're going to do this weekend. If you're new to the channel, you see these current spreads that I have listed here in the middle of your screen. That's what the spreads were at the beginning of the week. I'm going to update it real time on what do I see what the spreads are today. And in the top right, that's my overall record. So my overall record is basically money line, what I've done, how I've done straight up. Not bad. Used to look nicer, but not bad. And my ATS record, right? 16-16-1. Better than most, but worse than others, right? So we'll just call it that. Let's see if we can get back above 500 this weekend. So let's get into it. Let's start out with Penn State at Ohio State. So first and foremost, it started up as a 5-point favorite. Ohio State was a 5-point favorite going into this game. Let's go ahead and see how that's moved. So I usually have this already open, but my phone turned off for some reason. And this is moved. I checked earlier in the week. This had dropped to 4.5. Let's see if it's moved even more. Not yeah, it's 4.5 right now, right? So I kind of like that even better because I was leaning Ohio State and laying 4.5. So my reason behind this game, right? You're looking at these two teams. You got first. Let's talk Ohio State. Man, I've talked about Kyle McCord a lot this year, right? He's just not looking confident. He hasn't put together a full 60 minutes, in my opinion, right? There's been times he just hasn't looked confident. You guys are gonna say, man, he's got good numbers, man. He balled against so and so, right? He did this, he did that. He had a good game against Purdue, 16-28, 276. Man, some of that was some yak going on there. Okay, let's just call it what it is. He hasn't put together a full 4 quarters yet. But I'm gonna say this about Kyle McCord is I've seen glimpses of him looking pretty damn good. There's been times he's looked pretty damn good. At running back, right? You know, they've got so many injuries at running back, man. So Chip Trayanum got hurt last week. We don't know what the status is going into this week for all three, for Mayan, Trevion, and Chip Trayanum. Now the word is that because of all the time Trevion especially he's missed, they think they're going to be back this week. They're going to finally be back. If you look at it, Purdue, you know, if you're Ryan Day, you're like, man, I can beat Purdue without these guys. So Ibuka, Trevion, these guys, I think these guys, most of these guys are probably going to play this week. So that's what I'm going to base my prediction on, is most of these guys playing this week. So I think Ohio State's going to have their weapons. I think they're going to be, for the most part, 100%. Right, of what their roster is supposed to look like. I think they're going to have this week. Now you look at Penn State. Penn State doesn't really have these injury issues, but what they do have is a Drew Allar issue. Drew Allar, like Kyle McCord, former 5-star blue chip quarterback, right? You watch Drew Allar play, you tell me one game Drew Allar has looked like a 5-star blue chip quarterback. He hasn't looked like it. He's out here getting bailed out by a superior defense. And Penn State's defense is legit. One of the best in the country for sure. No doubt about it. But Drew Allar, he's getting bailed out by these guys because Drew Allar has not looked good. Drew Allar looks slow in the pocket, immobile. But hey, maybe you say, man, he's a pocket passer. Man, his arm doesn't look that strong. His arm doesn't look that accurate. He doesn't look like he's, capable of going downfield. maybe if I was to call it like it, I said last year, man, I would say, Mike, most people would say Sean Clifford is what's holding Penn State back because he's not really that good. If you're a Penn State fan or if you're watching college football, you're probably saying, man, when Drew Allar starts, Penn State's offense is going to take off, man, because he's a five-star blue-chip quarterback. He's going to be better than Sean Clifford. I'm telling you right now, man, Drew Allar looks like a guy who should be sitting on the bench for at least another year. He doesn't look like a guy who was ready to start to me. He just doesn't. Up to this point, they've played 6 games. They're 6-0. But he hasn't looked like a guy who should be starting. Not yet. That could change. And maybe that change is going to come next season. Maybe, he needed that another year to get more acclimated to the college football. You go to running back, Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, you're going to say, this is what people are going to say. People will say, man, they got Nick Singleton. Nick Singleton, 5-star running back, man. He baller. Katron Allen had a great year last year as a freshman. Also, super freshman duo. Okay. If you say so, because what I saw last year, I saw 2 good freshman backs. I didn't see 2 great freshman backs, but freshmen, you give them a year. There's the year. Sophomore year, these guys should be blowing up, right? You guys see Saquon Barkley? Because I don't. Saquon Barkley, more than a few years ago, but years ago, his blow-up game was Ohio State. He absolutely cooked the Buckeyes. They lost the game, but he cooked the Buckeyes. But the thing is, Saquon was balling before that, right? Nick Singleton's going to have a Saquon moment. Do you guys really think Nick Singleton's going to have a Saquon moment? Man, Nick Singleton looks slow. What word you want to use as the opposite of quick. He is unquick, and I know that's not a word, but he is unquick. He just looks like a big running back who he looks like, man, he looks like Ron Dane to me. Just runs into the line. But I'm talking about the NFL version of Ron Dane, man. He just runs into the line and he's not going anywhere. He averages 4.1 yards a carry in college football. That's good in the NFL. And in college football, man, if you're that dude, man, you need to be averaging around 6, something like that, man. Not cutting it. You know who does cut it, though? Is their third-string running back, a guy named Trey Potts, transferred from Minnesota. He balled at Minnesota. He got his opportunity because of injuries. Then he got injured. Then when everybody was coming back, he saw that he wasn't going to get the opportunities that he wanted, so he transferred. Makes sense. I'm with you. He played against Northwestern a couple weeks ago. He was the only running back in that Northwestern game that looked like he had any quickness to him. He had burst. He had quickness. Watching this game, Penn State's not going to use him like that. Not to say James Franklin doesn't know what he's doing, but all the gas is on Nick Singleton and Katron Allen and Drew Allar, right? These are the guys that they're going to use. Guys ain't going to do it. Those running backs don't have the quickness that Potts has, but Potts doesn't have the name those running backs have. So Potts isn't going to play as many snaps as those guys are, and it's going to hurt him. Drew Allar can't do it by himself at quarterback. Flat out, can't. And that's going to put tons of pressure on a Penn State defense. This Penn State defense is going to be all over Ohio State. To a point. Sooner or later, you're going to need your offense to do something. And I got my money that Ohio State defense is going to be able to shut down that Penn State offense because of the reasons I explained, as far as I'm not confident in their running game, and I'm not confident in Drew Allar. So I'm going with Ohio State. I'm going to lay the 4.5. I think this game is going to be low scoring, but I think they can cover the 4.5. I think this can be like a 20-13 game, 17-10 kind of game. It's going to be a battle, but I think Ohio State, with these guys, I'm assuming these guys are coming back from injury. I think they're going to be able to do enough to get past this Penn State defense, especially that fierce Penn State front seven. So where they get Kyle McCord is going to hit a few plays downfield to his weapons. Ohio State's going to win this game, and they're going to cover that 4.5. That's what I'm going with. Next up, Oklahoma State at West Virginia. So I told you guys, man, we have Oklahoma State on here last week. I'm like, man, why are they on here, man? They're not good. I said, man, Oklahoma State's not good, but they got a good enough record to be on my sheet here, my screen here. Well, Oklahoma State swept the state of Kansas the last 2 weeks, and Oklahoma State has started to play much better. They look a lot better than the team that got smashed by South Alabama, right? They look a lot better than that team. I told you guys about Ollie Gordon. I said, man, he doesn't have any help. And really, he kind of doesn't. I still kind of will stick to that. But he's the truth at running back. He's probably one of the best running backs in the country. Nobody really probably knows about him or knows that he is one of the best running backs in the country because he's full package, man. Power, speed, vision, all of that, man. He could do it all. Hands, catch out the backfield, make plays. He could do it all. But these receivers for Oklahoma State, Rashad Owens and those guys, they're starting to make plays, man. These guys are looking all right. They're making plays. Alan Bowman, the quarterback, he's played a lot of college football, and he's never been impressive, but he's starting to look okay this year, too. I would assume this is his final year. The guy feels like he's been around 15 years. But he's starting to make plays, look better, look more consistent. I would say that this Oklahoma State defense or offense should look pretty good. They've been looking pretty good the last 2 weeks. Really the last 3, even though they lost to Iowa State, which is a bad loss. But they've looked good. They've swept the state of Kansas. Now can they go do it on the road? Can they do it in Morgantown and West Virginia where you know those fans are going to show up? Now, while those fans are going to show up, that West Virginia offense and defense needs to show up and put together a complete game. West Virginia coming off a loss to Houston on a Hail Mary. But even despite the Hail Mary, I mean, you still gave up 5 touchdowns even before that. Like, your secondary got cooked, okay, in that game. They got absolutely cooked in that game. I think all of that work was done in the second half, too. Garrett Green, he threw almost 400 in that game, but Houston can't play defense because the week before that, Garrett Green went 10 for 21, 142 against TCU. And that's more the Garrett Green that you see. He's got legs. He can make plays with his legs. He can't really make plays like that with his arm. And I don't think he's going to make plays with his arm against Oklahoma State, which is where you can make plays against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's defense hasn't been good this year, but especially against the pass, you can make plays against them in the air. You can on the ground too, but I mean, there's air holes in that defense. So when I looked at this spread, the spread opened at 3.5, right? So this spread opened at 3.5. When I looked at the spread, I actually thought Oklahoma State was going to be favored in this game. So I was kind of surprised that it was West Virginia by 3.5. Well, guess what? This has gone down to 3. So people are seeing what I'm seeing. And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not even going to take the 3. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to start believing in Oklahoma State. And I'm going to take the OK State money line because flat out, Alan Bowman is a better passing quarterback than Garrett Green. While I like C.J. Donaldson at West Virginia, he hasn't been that impressive this year. And Ollie Gordon is definitely a better running back than C.J. Donaldson. The West Virginia defense, sure, is probably better than the Oklahoma State defense, but they're not shut down better. Oklahoma State's going to make plays, and West Virginia isn't going to be able to take advantage of an OK State defense that will give you what you want through the air. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Oklahoma State. We're doing this game, too, against a spread-type game. But we're doing this money line. Let's shrink these footballs, I guess, right? There we go. Oklahoma State, money line. Next up is Washington State at Oregon. This opened at 18.5 point favor for Oregon. Damn. This opened at 18.5. I'll be honest, I was going to do this game too. This opened 18.5. This has gone up to 20. So everybody was thinking what I was thinking, and this is what I was thinking. 1, Oregon coming off a tough loss in a classic, an all-time classic to Washington. 2 teams that could probably be, that are, in college football playoff contention still despite losing, right? Great game. That's got to be heartbreaking. And you know how it is in college football, man. You got letdown games. Letdown games is part of college football. No matter how good the team is, You see it. If this game was on the road, I would consider not doing it because letdown game, Oregon's going to start slow. They're eventually going to beat Washington State, but they're going to start slow, and maybe they don't cover the spread. This is a situation where letdown game, they're at home, still could start slow, but eventually they'll get over it and wax an Oregon State team or a Washington State team that's offense has been really, really suspect lately. I mean, they're coming off a home loss to Arizona where they lost 44-6. They got beat up by UCLA. You look at the final score, 25-17. They should have lost by 3 touchdowns. UCLA's quarterback threw a pick 6 in there when they were about to score at the end of the half. That should have been a 3-touchdown loss. Reality is, Washington State's offense has basically generated 10 points and then 6 points. So they've been really struggling to score. Oregon with Dan Lanning at the coordinator, I mean, they still need to improve talent-wise on defense, but they've got good enough players to where they're going to cause Washington State problems. You know, Washington State loves that air raid, and it's been smelly lately. It hasn't been doing it. Bo Nix and these guys are going to do what they want in this game. 20, I don't like laying so many points. Man, I don't like laying so many points. At 18.5, I was going to do it. Man, I'm going to still do it. We're going to go ahead and take Oregon, and we're going to lay to 20 because Washington State is circling the drain right now. They used to look so good, but right now their offense is figured out. Cam Ward can't get anything going with these wide receivers. And Washington State's defense, they have an okay pass rush. It's not bad, but Oregon, they're not slowing down Oregon. Oregon's going to do what they want, running and throwing in this game. I expect them to blow Washington State out and cover that 20. Next up, Tennessee at Alabama. This opened at 9.5 for Alabama. Ooh, this has since dropped to 8.5. Interesting. That's interesting. So in this game, this is a tough call right here. And I'll be honest, this is a game I'm considering not doing, and I'm probably not going to do. So when you look at this game, you look at it from Tennessee's side. You got Josh Heupel, and you're thinking, man, these guys, all right, they're going to air it out. They can make plays through the air. No, they can't. They lost Brew McCoy. And while I have respect for Squirrel White and Ramel Keaton, clearly these guys need Brew McCoy because the passing game isn't working. I'm not going to say they're a dink passing game because they do try to go downfield. They just don't hit plays downfield. Not like they once did last year with Hendon Hooker. Part of it is without no Brew McCoy. Part of it is why am I blanking on his name? Joe Milton is not Hendon Hooker, and while he has probably the strongest arm in college football, he's not accurate, right? What Tennessee does have, though, is a running game. They got a 3-headed monster at running back. They have an O-line that opens up holes. They can run the ball. Now, they're playing an Alabama team that nobody's been able to run the ball against. They have an unheralded, I'll call it, front seven. Almost a no-name front seven. I mean, Dallas Turner is known, but he's not out there like Will Anderson was, right? But this front seven is balling for Alabama, man. These guys are absolutely containing and controlling every running game they go against. And what you can make plays against Alabama is through the air. You can hit plays against Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and Terry and Arnold because these guys aren't lockdown cover corners no matter what you want to think. They just aren't. Tennessee can't take advantage of that. Tennessee can't take advantage of that. I was thinking of taking Tennessee with the 9.5 for the simple fact that they have a great pass rush. The running game might do something. They'll be controlled, but they'll make some plays here and there. But because of their pass rush, they're going to control Jalen Milroe. They're going to keep Jalen Milroe in the pocket. Jalen Milroe is going to be under tons of pressure, and Jalen Milroe had to rely on 2 busted coverages by Arkansas last week to win that game. Bama beat Arkansas 24-21 last week, but Arkansas gave him 2 touchdowns, 2 wide open touchdowns, 2 busted coverages. They were up 24-6, and Arkansas came roaring back to make it 24-21 and had time. And the Bama defense shut it down because Alabama's offense could not get drives going. They could run the ball in that game. They actually ran well, but Jalen Milroe did not have consistency passing the ball. You take away those two blown coverages, his stats are going to look way different. So Tennessee is going to have Jalen Milroe under control. Jalen Milroe is going to be running for his life in this game. Tennessee's got one of the best pass rushers I've seen so far this season. They're in the top tier. So I don't know about Jalen Milroe making a ton of plays in this game to be able to cover that 8.5. So that's why I'm like, man, I'm wishy-washy on this, right? I just can't do it. I'm going to take Alabama straight up because of the fact that Tennessee's probably not going to score that many points. But I don't know how many points Alabama's going to score to be able to cover this spread. So I'm going to go ahead and take Alabama straight up, but I am not laying that 8.5. All right, on to Ole Miss at Auburn. Now, bring you guys back a few weeks. Auburn was at home against Georgia. Georgia was a double-digit point favorite, and I took Georgia because I was like, man, Auburn's not that good. This is a mulligan year. Their offense can't move. And that's basically what happened that game. But because Georgia's the kind of team who doesn't like to wake up unless they're playing a legit opponent, they don't like to wake up until the second half. They didn't cover. Georgia won, but they didn't cover. Here we have another situation. Auburn is at home against an Ole Miss team, a very good Ole Miss football team. They're Ole Miss now. They're not double-digit dog, but they're against an Ole Miss team that doesn't have Georgia's problem. They will wake up, and they will. The offense will be awake from word go. The problem with Ole Miss has been their defense, but that's if you have a good offense. If you have a good offense, you're going to take advantage of this Ole Miss defense. You're going to be able to pass the ball against these guys. Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford can't pass the ball. They don't have receivers that can get open like that consistently and cook up Ole Miss and drop a 40-burger on the board. They don't have that on their resume. They have an okay running game, sure, but they don't have that on their resume. Before we continue, is the spread still 6 is the question, right? So let's take a look here. And the spread in this game has stayed at 6. So we're still at 6, right? So Ole Miss with Jackson Dart, with Ulysses Bentley, and now Quinshon Judkins looks finally back, which is great because he's probably the best running back out there. With these guys, this running back duo might be the best running back duo in college football, right? Man, Auburn's defense is good, not great. They can't shut these guys down. Auburn's not going to shut these guys down. These guys just got destroyed by LSU by 30, and they don't have a team. LSU ran for over 200. Let me put it to you like this. Auburn is about to have the same kind of performance offensively that LSU just had. And whose defense is better, Ole Miss's or LSU's? I would say Ole Miss, right? This to me, I don't understand the 6. I thought this would be double-digit spread. I'm laying the 6 in this one, and I'm not looking. Yeah, it's on the road, sure. Maybe people just don't believe in Lane Kiffin or something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the odds makers were thinking when they did this spread. But I'm taking Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss easily can win this by double digits. But Auburn is at home, so you've been forewarned, right? We'll see how this goes. But so now here we are. We got Ohio State. We're laying the 4.5. We're taking the Oklahoma State money line. We're taking Oregon and laying the 20, so that's 3. And now we're taking Ole Miss and laying the 6, so that's 4. So we already got 4 games against the spread that we're doing. We got a lot going here. Okay, Duke, Florida State. This is another disclaimer game, just like we did last week. It's all on Riley Leonard, right? So is Riley Leonard playing or not? He's been ruled day-to-day for like the last 2 weeks. High ankle sprain. It's been 3 weeks. Usually this is the front end. If you're going to play, if you're coming back from a high ankle sprain, it's usually now when you come back. The back end is like 6 weeks, right? So obviously the coaching staff isn't going to give out that information on if Riley Leonard is playing or not. So my disclaimer is, if Riley Leonard starts, and they're saying he's 100%. Obviously, you won't know until the game is played if he really is. But if they're saying he's 100%, I'm taking Duke, and I'm taking Duke straight up money line because I don't believe in Florida State's defense. I don't think their defense is very good. I think their defense has kind of been bailed out by either poor coaching decisions in games where they've been cooked for over 400 yards, games they should have lost, i.e. Clemson, i.e. Boston College. Or they're coming, they're playing one-man gang Syracuse last week who's fading, who's circling the drain, and they still got ran on in that game, right? So I'm not believing in that. I think Duke's defense played well all year. Duke defense can definitely cause Florida State some problems because Florida State last week, notwithstanding, the Florida State pass to Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman downfield, jump ball offense has had times where it's really slowed down, right? And I think in a game like this, we really wish Riley Leonard was healthy because we really could see how this would play out. But a game like this, they're going to be tested. Duke's defense is for real, and they're going to test Florida State's offense. Florida State's defense really does have issues, and against a Riley Leonard-led Duke team, they're going to be exposed. Now, you go against a Henry Bellin who completed 4 passes last week, and different story, right? That's the entire makeup of the game changes, right? So my disclaimer is this: tune in at game time. If Riley Leonard is playing, I'm doing this game. Duke against the spread. But if it's Henry Bellin, I'm not going to lay the 14 in Florida State, but I will take Florida State straight up. But I won't do that as against the spread pick because I think Duke's defense is for real. And maybe even with Henry Bellin, they could keep it within 14. Not sure about that. But I'm going to assume right now that Leonard is playing, so I'm putting the football next to Duke's name. But again, Leonard doesn't play, it's Florida State straight up is what I'm doing. Next up, Clemson, Miami. Clemson, a surprising only 2-point favorite. This has gone up to 3, though. So Clemson, spread has not gone up to 3. Oh, man, we didn't even check the Duke-Florida State. That Duke-Florida State has changed to 14.5 now, by the way. So, I mean, like I said, I really wouldn't lay it. But Clemson has now gone up to a 3-point favorite, right? So money pouring in on Clemson, and I get it. Miami kind of got, I don't want to say exposed last week, but a really good, balanced North Carolina offense really took it to a Miami defense that had played well all year outside of the A&M game. And even that A&M game, they played well. There was a lot of yardage in there towards the end of the game. In this one, North Carolina kind of really was doing what they wanted to. It caused a lot of problems for Miami's defense, and they kind of looked exposed, I would say. Now, is Clemson's offense as good as North Carolina? No. Cade Klubnik he's been improving this year, but he doesn't look as good as Drake May, right? Clemson has receivers, but they've been banged up at that unit, so they don't look as good as North Carolina's receivers. Now, I will say this. Antonio Williams supposedly is finally coming back in this game. That's huge. So the word was he was close to coming back a couple weeks ago. So Clemson coming off a bye, gave him an extra week off. He could be back. That could be huge for Clemson because he's their best receiver. And with Tyler, what's his name? Was it Tyler Brown? Tyler Brown has been balling. That'd be a great addition to that offense. So on the road against a Miami team with Tyler Van Dyke, where these guys, they look good. They don't look great just yet. Tyler Van Dyke had a bad game against Georgia Tech. He come back last week, and if you look at his numbers, they look good. He threw for 391, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. But you got to remember, they were down 38-17, and then he started to really hit off some passes and stuff like that, right? Clemson's defense still looks talented. Clemson's defense is still good enough to really slow down Miami's offense in this game, really kind of, I won't say shut them down, but really cause them a lot of problems. And Cade Klubnik, as I say, he continues to grow every week. I think this is another game where he's going to grow. He's going to look good in this game. I think that while Clemson has had some coaching issues this season, this is a game where coming off a bye week, recalibrate. I say Clemson, we're getting some guys back with a defense that's still good. They still have the best players overall in the ACC. Clemson is who I'm taking in this game, and I'm taking them to cover the 3. So they go on the road. Miami, I don't want to say they're circling drain because I think they can battle. I don't think this is going to be a blowout at all. But I think Miami's going to lose their 3rd game in a row, right? Things start to spiral for them at that point. And then finally, Utah-USC. This is a game where I'm just not going to do this game as far as against the spread goes. I see Utah's a physical team, and USC has trouble with physical teams, as we saw with Notre Dame last week, right? Let's see what this spread, by the way, has changed to. Wow, this has gone from 5.5 to 7. USC, 7-point favorite. Now, I'm going to pick USC to win this game straight up because I'm not taking these backup quarterbacks for Utah who they've had their chances. They've had their chances all season, and they've proven they can't play at this level. They flat cannot play at this level. Utah's had so many injuries at running back. They're down to Jalen Glover, who is just okay, but he's clearly not at the same level of the other guys that they had, Jaquinion Jackson, Micah Bernard. He's just not. But that backfield, that's a backup backfield Utah's using. And they are very limited at quarterback. I say USC's defense isn't the reason they lost to Notre Dame. You see the 48, that's USC's offense with all those turnovers, right? And there's a kick return for a touchdown in there too, right? So USC's defense played better. They're good enough to maybe that's why the money's been pouring in, because at 5.5, they're good enough to win this game by a touchdown, right? I'm just not going to do this game because I saw USC have trouble with a physical team. Utah's defense is physical. They are going to cause Caleb some problems. Not enough, I think, for Utah to win the game, but I'm going to take USC straight up to win the game. But I'm not messing with the spread in this one. I don't like this game at all, and so I'm taking USC straight up in this one. Until I see USC handle a physical team, I'm not going to do spread games with them playing a physical team. So, recap: we got Ohio State. We're laying the 4.5. We got Oklahoma State money line. I'm taking the dog in that one. Oregon, we're laying the 20. Ole Miss, we're laying the 6. Disclaimer: Duke. Riley Leonard's playing. We're taking Duke money line. If you want to take the 14.5, I'm sure that line will change if they say Riley Leonard's playing, so you have to do it quick. But that's on you. I would take Duke straight up, though, to win on the road. And we're taking Clemson laying the 3. So we have 5, potentially 6 ATS games we're going to do this week. But we're going to see how we do. We keep it rolling from last week and see how this week turns out. But anyways, if you like the content and all of that, please like, follow, subscribe, all of that. You're going to see my YouTube handle here in a few seconds. And with that said, let's go get this money and take care.